Greetings. What's up, my people? Good day today. You peoples. Want to communicate before y'all at this time for a minute regarding something, you know what I'm saying, that's on my mind regarding this topic that I want to enunciate about, entitled Respect for Power. Now, for instance, right, on a day-to-day basis, we find ourselves in a consistent position to have our needs met on a day-to-day basis, structured around the cycle of time of how we operate our affairs, doing what we have to do to provide for ourselves, right? But yet, it appears there is a systematic approach at the same time outside of our immediate circles and circles of power, dealing with international governmental associations and operations and procedures that is in place to manifest certain ideologies that they have to suit themselves at the expense of others, where it's like the rich get richer, the poor get poor, to where people have to work things out amongst their own selves in this geopolitical picture, dealing with, are we going to accept what's called our allotted portion in this life that has been given to us by certain movers and shakers in position of power who have took a major portion of the piece of the pie and pretty much it appears like they got the whole pie, where a lot of other percentages of the population is surviving off of crumbs in a way where they are to be satisfied with the crumbs and not think in ways to where us who is living off of the crumbs, right, is not feeling some kind of way, you know what I'm saying, toward the iron hand oppressive manipulators, you know what I'm saying, who have caused such a social imbalance in the society and in humanity at large, to where we are to just be sheeple without a conscious resistance against the obvious or against the cloaked, right, was hidden in plain sight. But we are not to resist against these differences of human condition when it comes to being well off, like they are well off, so to speak? Are we to just settle for this by these particular movers and shakers regarding principalities and high places where the powers that be, due to this being a certain era of time, have turned into being the powers that were, who are falling in power despite the access they have through the international political sectors and military industrial complexes with certain funding behind the agendas that they have in place to conquer the world, so to speak, through a new world order ideology that appears to be the solution to all of our problems. Yet, spiritually, it's been brought to our attention when it comes to the word of the Most High to put all your trust in me and I will direct your path. Now, we have money masters who tend to be the forces that have certain people bow down to the power of the dollar bill as a result of everything being for sale. Everything and everybody, it appears to be for sale. Like when our ancestors was bought and sold on auction blocks and slave auctions and things to this particular nature. Here in today's society in 2025, it's a lot of psychological slavery going on to the point where people, indeed, it appears to have become so callous to them, due to them forgetting the purity in which they was created in, reflecting the highest of the Most High's creation. And this is the behavior patterns we showing when it comes to aligning ourselves with the higher consciousness of the supreme wisdom of the Most High in the face of the technology of the devil on a daily basis. When we have a certain covering on us spiritually that's divinely protected, right? To the point where we find ourselves not wanting to be entangled in the mess of the moral corruptness, you know what I'm saying, that causes a moral decay in the mentalities of a lot of people to where they have lost the inkling or the instinct to utilize their moral compass in an environment that have degenerated to moral corruptness. So, with that said, regarding this topic about having a respect for power, may we have a respect for the power of the Most High, where the term lie, the beginning of wisdom, is having fear of the Most High in a perspective to where that fear will show love for the Most Most High, not to be scared of the Most High, where the Most High don't give us the spirit of fear and that capacity. You know what I'm saying? Being scared of God. I mean, of course, we are to have a healthy respect for not overstanding our bounds when it comes to the superior power of the creator of the universe. Now, mind you, there is a creator of the universe. When we look at the reality of our existence and nature's existence and our relationship physically to nature, spiritually, a person in his right mind, whether you can comprehend it or not, there is and has to be a intelligent creator that's responsible for this existence that we are in called life, right? Now, with that said, life itself is being lived on whose terms? Because we here for a time and we here for a reason to where we are to remember certain proverbial messages if you paying attention, because if you're not taking heed to taking time out of your day to have some kind of being in tune with the natural nature of the Most High's divine timing, right? If you're not reconnecting yourself, if you're not being in tune, you will get possessed by other spirit forces that will create a certain environment within your own inner being to where you will be a manifestation of walk-ins that's on all kind of low demonic channels of expression, that you will find yourself being in the company of those particular kind of spirit forces or certain birds of a certain feather, that birds of a certain feather that you know that term, birds of a feather that flock together, right? Even if you by yourself, certain birds of a feather will flock together because of the legions inside you, right? Spiritually, wreaking havoc in your mind to cause you to be other than yourself, lacking knowledge of self, having you distracted, giving energy to your enemy and the enemy allies and forces and evil minions that do the bidding of the evil one society. Now, for instance, right, respect for power. Let's have a respect for power. We cut the light on. Respect for power. Now, for instance, right, we have been misled by a lot of mind magicians who utilize their time to distract us off of the right path. But yet, Partner Bab Yanun came to set the record straight for us to be on time with this particular alignment of being in tune with our true spiritual essence, right? As far as like, we are here to maximize our development mentally to the maximum of what can be contained with no interferences between our divine connection with the Most High, without the cords being cut. because somebody in certain positions or circles of power, right? They want to keep us behind. So we won't get ahead of them to where they will find themselves following us conspicuously in the front in the eyes of the international community of nations, to where if we do end up being in that position, that won't be a problem because we will choose to lead wisely with our power in a incorrupt spiritual fashion, as opposed to the six ether forces that's at work right now, trying to hold on to the power that they do have, which is dwindling to where our rise as a people is inevitable. But that don't mean we will be practicing reverse racism. That means we will be practicing right racism. Right racism is a when a people is in on one accord with one another, right? Where we treat our fellow brothers and sisters of the human family in a fair fashion, rooted in justice and real positive love with respect to diversity. Like, for instance, in the Holy Quran, when the passage in there was saying, we created you in nations and tribes for you to get to know each other and not despise one another. Yet you have certain forces as a result of the lunar cycle, the 6,000 year rule of what our Kemetic ancestors called the Hekakasuts, or the Tamahus, or the Caucasians, right? Which we can't deny in history that is written in stone by our ancestors for nobody to get this stuff twisted. But yet, a lot of stuff been hitting in plain sight to throw us off, for confusion to be triggered in our minds. The palace of the mind, the crystal city of the mind, the clarity of the mind, the Christ consciousness of the mind, because we are higher than where we may see ourselves. So say for instance, we have, just for the sake of intelligent conversation, right? Individuals regarding our people who have been influenced by what they call the Willie Lynch chip, like a microchip, downloaded into the psyche, the memory banks of our people's minds, right? To where a virus has spread it throughout the circuitry of our thought processes as a result of wrong knowledge that causes us to not interact with one another the right way, causing such disunity in this organization. So for the people that's listening to this communication right here, let them hear what the spirit of my being, may you hear what's being conveyed in a way to break the psychological chains of slavery that has been placed there as invisible chains that people don't see yet. They there through the misinformation which was cast by witches and warlocks, to be a spell cast by spell binders to blind you so they can buy time to do what they need to do before you wake up, before it's too late for them, because they only have a certain time to do what has been allotted to them by the gods or the ancient ones that is returning to this reality, right? That's coming back to the point where I mean, do we know their intentions when they come back? Is they coming back to crush the wicked and destroy them by fire, symbolic bloodshed, to uproot the wicked seeds out of the earth? Because mind you, there's a lot of wicked bloodlines still on the planet that's at work. You know what I'm saying? So why we just, not taking these spiritual teachings serious, we find ourselves living our best life in the way that we know how, doing what we do. You know what I'm saying? Thinking, I mean, that's our source of happiness, how we live. You know what I'm saying? But when the scripture was talking about your righteousness is as filthy rags, I mean, how good do we have to be recognized by the gods to be justified as a righteous individual, where we doing the best we can on this plane, right? To where we like, you know what, I'm doing the right thing, I'm living, but your right ain't good enough. So if my righteousness is not good enough, and the evil one has created a world for us to live in, where this world has been given um, into the hands of the wicked, to where they say when we born in this world, we born into a world of sin, shaped in its shaped by the iniquities of this world. Now, what are iniquities? Iniquities are laws that have been broken, that work in service against the Most High's divine covenants for us to obey. So if we've been born in a world with broken divine covenants, yet we have an opportunity to get right through cleansing ourselves through mental work, right? To clean ourselves up inside, out, and outside in, to where we will be seen by the spiritual beings, right? Through our aura, so that we have been doing certain internal work through getting our minds right, ending up being on the right track of the alignment of these divine covenants, right? That's in place for us to make it spiritually, without being deceived by this physical plane as a distraction, when it's more to us than it's physical. It's our spirit body we gotta build up and pay attention to. You know what I'm saying? All this external stuff is a distraction and an illusion, when the real reality is the spirit world that we are a part of through having this human experience, yet we are gods in physical form, that's half man and half spiritual, that is of the essence of the Most High Creator. Now watch this when it comes to power, having a respect for power. Knowledge is power, right? So if we encountering dumb people, that means these individuals are not powerful. These individuals is basically powerless. So you have certain powers that be take advantage of your ignorance that has you in a form of darkness of the mind where you can't see that you can't see what's going on. To where let alone you having certain information, but the light of your mind is even cut off. It's even in the dark regarding unactive regarding you having an unactivated pineal gland, so to speak. Now, let's just touch on a few things that the master teacher Panabab Yanun want us to take into consideration, right? Regarding what have been given to us. Then we're gonna go into some other things dealing with the current Donald Trump administration that's in office right now, where some things that appear like, okay, yeah, he sound good, he taking care of business in these angles and categories here, but yet when it comes to the 1964 Civil Rights Bill, that was civil rights gains by our people through the freedom struggles, you know what I'm saying, to appeal to the political institutions of the United States through the Supreme Court, right? Through Supreme Court rulings where you can go to the Library of Congress or you can research in law that has standing in law, right? To where our people who gain civil rights, which is respectable, that was legislative gains through the legislative branch of the government, right? Where the Supreme Court outlawed certain discriminatory practices against us as a people, right? Yet, these outlawed practices that didn't deal with, okay, certain inclusions of us in society by getting rid of the segregation and the lack of diversity and the lack of equality or equity or fairness when it comes to justice in the society in which we live, right? How dare y'all, you know what I'm saying, disrespect those power moves. See, wait a minute. See, this is going back to having respect for power. See, by us gaining those civil rights powers is symbols of power to the point where certain forces feel threatened, where here in the United States of America, which has a racist history, where outside of the white man's settlement of establishing the government that they have established, right, which didn't even include the white woman to share in that power of the establishment of this particular European-based white government establishment through what they call the English white male. Yet, has they allotted like position that got something to do with treaties of our ancestors that was here before they got here. So were we before the history of the European dealings here in the United States of America as a people with their independence through 1776? That marks their Independence Day that they celebrate. So, based on the Independence Day that they celebrate, is an Independence Day that they celebrated for themselves, that didn't include me and you. So, where's our Independence Day? But it appears that through us collectively being categorized as America, being a country, as a melting pot full of diversity, you know what I'm saying, with different racial nationalities and identities in this country, yet but we all Americans. But at the same time, you got the Trump administration that, from what I'm hearing, from what I'm seeing, did something to me, did something, politically to me, which is I don't think a wise thing to do, which is making a statement where it appears, instead of moving the country forward through MAGA, MAGA, right? Making America great again. But wait a minute. Making America great again. How you gonna make America great when you're going backwards by trying to dismantle the DEI gains that black people, that you say, Mr. Trump, that you not racist against, which I don't think you is, but they say actions speak louder than words. When you trying to put us in a position to where we have lost certain gains, where certain racist white America, who was real racist back then, conspicuously and obviously, to the point where the diversity was non-existent, the equity was non-existent, the inclusion was non-existent and prevalent, more so than it looked like it's prevalent today, due to the affirmative actions and due to the civil rights game that was won through the legislative branch, right? The civil rights game, the civil rights that a lot of us benefit from, not even other races who didn't fight for the civil rights that we fought for, right? In America, right? As far as civil rights activists, right? Who was in tune with them civil rights game, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, right? Which is something y'all can look up. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was empowered, was legislated through law to have standing in law that outlaw discriminatory practices against us, to where we was included in certain areas of federal government as far as seats of power and these things of this particular nature. But yet, it's this term, you know what I'm saying, called sinecures amongst our own people. Okay, like when the master teacher, Padre Bab Yanun, right, wrote the book, Are There Black Devils? Regarding people that look like us, who work in service of white supremacy elements, to try to keep us out of position of power and keep us down, and to keep us out of certain economic prosperities. or independent ideologies and ideas that we carry into practice to have our own Independence Day. You know what I'm saying? As far as being indigenous to this land, as tribes or a nation with indigenous rights to our native home or indigenous home here in the here in America, us, the copper colored people. Now, when it comes to having respect for power, right? Certain sources and forces of power see, wait a minute, this is a greater power than I that we dealing with. So let us deal with them wisely to the point where who can we trust in the divine scheme of things and our approach to striving for perfection, thinking big and not thinking small when it comes to the relationships that we have with one another as the human family, because day by day you sit back and watch these series of events that take place, right? We've been seeing that a lot of what's going on to some of us still, it's like we ain't surprised. You know why? Because we have become so desensitized to these things that are in question to the point where we don't be shocked because they are common occurrences, right? They so much of a common occurrence to the point where certain Luciferian forces, right? They like pushing the envelope, you know what I'm saying, to where with certain shock things that's shocking to the cultural norms, right? For us all to be in agreement with these certain abnormal psychological desires that certain forces get pleasure out of because it's the norm for them behind closed doors. So behind these closed doors, we not in those particular clubs and parties. So being out here innocent, doing what we doing. Like for instance, I'm doing this transmission. I'm not affiliated with any kind of corruption. I don't want to be. I don't, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to keep it that way. I'd rather be an example, you know what I'm saying, of somebody who stands for something that is incorruptible. Like we supposed to be a part of anyway, right? But yet we living in a world full of corruption to where Uncle Sam wants you. Who Uncle Sam connected with? Poison those of L. Who are the poison those of L? The 200 fallen, disagreeable, evil Nephilims. Or if that is questionable, then why is the symbolism of Uncle Sam a reflection of the Baphomet? And the Baphomet, you know what I'm saying, who is associated, You know what I'm saying? With certain practices that's outside of the divine righteous aim and purpose of correct information and right knowledge, then why you have certain elements that's connected to the sinister path of the left hand path that they talk about, that's connected with the negative magic. Excuse me. That certain entities participate in, you know what I'm saying, to try to stunt the growth of individuals, brothers and sisters, men, women, and children that's trying to be pure. So they can be what's called the Al-Muklasinas, the purified ones. Now, man, let's go to this reading material right here regarding this study guide about who lived before Adam and Eve, which is going to go into some other things. But before I go here, right, about power, right, having a respect for power, are certain elements in the Trump administration is living in fear of the power that we have through civil rights gains, through transforming certain seats of power in this country that can actually be transformed by people who is of the Most High, right? Where the government can truly metamorphosize into a theocracy, a government of the Most High that is connected with right knowledge beyond all the secrecy, the secret societies and things of this particular nature. I'm not talking about authentic military projects that is to be de- uh, that is to be classified in the intelligence communities. I'm talking about real transformation that can take place if we let it. But somebody, the Luciferian forces, don't want to let this happen. Now, I'm not calling certain people Luciferians without the proof or evidence that, okay, yeah, that's those people who doing what they doing. They are of the Luciferian conspiracy. That word conspiracy go. You talking about conspiracies? John, he must be one of them conspiracy theorists. No, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Don't y'all know that conspiracy theories are in actuality conspiracy realities and facts of life that actually taking place, but it's too far-fetched? Like, in some cases, like, man, come on, man, be for real, man. Ain't nobody doing nothing like that. But guess what? They are doing it. And it's a saying, right? Just because you don't believe what somebody be trying to get through your hard heads and thick heads, right? Just because you don't believe it, don't mean they don't believe it. Because what they believe is what they believe. And by them doing what they believe, it's much easier for them to achieve what they are trying to do because you don't believe it. But they giving power and energy and resources to these certain operations, right? As psyops and secret projects, you know what I'm saying, to push the envelope on certain experimentations to get a certain scientific finding so they can repetitiously replicate certain ideas as creators in them environments to continue to come up with ideologies to other scientific findings and things that they got cooked up, you know what I'm saying, dealing with certain experimentations that involve mathematics and nuclear physics and uh, uh, sciences and what you call it? Yeah, that's it. Like physics, you know what I'm saying? And them particular fields of study, biology and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Chemicals and stuff like that. And also dealing with time travel, space travel, studying of portals, stargates, star constellations. You know what I'm saying? Um, the